Welcome to the Total Football Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Declan Hart, and I'm joined by Andrew Conway as we review the weekend's footballing action in both England and across Europe, as well as look back on last week's Champions League action.
Of the 9 teams not from Manchester to play an away game in the Premier League this weekend, a total of 5 goals were scored between them. Meanwhile, just outside London at 3 p.m. on Saturday afternoon, Manchester City began their 6-goal demolition of Watford. 18 Premier League teams not based in Manchester. 11 goals were scored last weekend between them. 10 were scored between the 2 Manchester clubs. Is this the beginning of Manchester's comeback to a 2-horse title race, or are we getting ahead of ourselves?
We might be getting ahead of ourselves, I think.
Maybe. We'll start with Watford and Man City. This was, I don't know what you want to call this match. A demolition is what we called it in the introduction, but it was a very weird performance.
It was a bit flattering on City. It was very harsh on Watford, certainly.
Yeah, they weren't good. Watford weren't good. They deserved to lose.
They did create chances though to score at least.
Yeah, there was a lot of set pieces and that actually led to opportunities for goal scoring. City didn't look that susceptible to things. No. But they were so clinical at the other end.
Yeah, and they really look much better now. Like we said this before, when they were trying to force 2 up top and a 3-man defence. Now that they've switched to more of a 4-3-3 in the last couple of weeks, they've averaged 5 goals a game.
They look more balanced. Yeah. They seem to be good in the transition. They're keeping tight. It's
bringing the best out of Kevin De Bruyne as well.
It is, and I think that's crucial going forward. I think he is one of their players that's going to actually kick them on more so than Aguero, who took the headlines for scoring a hat-trick in this match. And more than even Gabriel Jesus or
now he's the top scorer in the league as well.
Yeah, it helps that when you kind of put a hat-trick in against one of the weaker sides. It's kind of Aguero special at this point. Yeah. They're the new Norwich, or who did he used to score against all the time? He used to Newcastle. I remember he put 5 past Newcastle.
He scored a lot against Tottenham pre-Pochettino.
Yeah, there's certain teams that Aguero does fantastic against, and
West Brom.
There's other teams that just he can't seem to.
Yeah, he's got a great record against Liverpool as well. He's a great striker.
Yeah, really maybe you're kind of ruining my point here. I don't know. They were clinical. They were precise, but as you said, it wasn't a 6-0. No. The way that you might expect a team to just completely capitulate and let them in. It was 6-0 by the not late in the match. It could have been a lot worse.
It could have been worse.
What was the 68th minute? Was the last goal? Was it?
I think there was a penalty. I think the 5th goal was the 68th minute, but there was a penalty late enough on.
Oh, there was, and Sterling scored. Yeah. But that's what I mean. They could have been double figures if they really wanted to push it. For it. If this was a goal difference match, as we said, what year was it? 2011-12.
2011-12. Yeah.
The league was decided on goal difference on the last day.
Yeah, and it was the match between the top 2 that kind of swung the goal.
It was 5-1.
6-1.
6-1 that year, but to Man City over Man United. The other side of Manchester, and this time actually up in Manchester itself, a home game, which kind of went against the trend of away team scoring. It happened on Sunday afternoon. Man United beat Everton, a dismal Everton again. Yeah. That's how many? 3 defeats in the bounce, is it?
4 in all competitions.
4 in all competitions. They looked, devoid of a plan, really.
Yeah, and
without playing terribly this time.
No, and I think once United, because United scored early, it was the 3rd or 4th minute. It just seemed like
great
Everton,
goal.
It was a great goal.
Antonio Valencia from the right-hand side.
He never scores.
Something like Carlos Alberto, if it was a kind of a volley and less passing.
And he shinned it as well.
Yeah, top corner.
But it completely destroyed. Everton seemed like they were content with the point, and then all of a sudden they were a goal down in 3 or 4 minutes. So it was back 9 for the first 20 minutes, essentially. Yeah. They were so deep.
They did grow into the match, but speaking of flattering score lines, what is this? How many minutes did you say it was? 8 minutes?
8 minutes, I think, in the final.
In the final 10 minutes, Man United scored 3 goals, really peppered the scoreline. One of them,
they've done it a few times this season as well, which is kind of becoming an odd trend for them.
They've scored, 38% of all the goals scored in the final 20 minutes have been from Manchester United.
Of the 16 goals they've scored, 3/4 of them have come after the 80th minute.
Which is mad. And they're all kind of the same players as well. They're not... That kind of shows those players are switched on.
Yeah, Martial seems to always be getting the 3rd or 4th as well. Yeah, he's coming on and he's ending the game.
That's something I want to talk to you about. When at the beginning of the season we spoke about Lukaku and his impact on Man United. Yeah. That at Everton he never actually scored an important goal.
No.
But that... he has scored winning goals already because he did score the first. Didn't
He scored the first two against West Ham.
But now he seems to be falling into that pattern of scoring the last goals in the match.
But we also did kind of say that that's kind of what United need.
True, and they didn't have it last week against Stoke.
Like, you look at this fixture last season, you look at the West Ham fixture last season, they drew both those games 1-1, and the way this match went, it looked like they were about to finish the match 1-1, but then Lukaku came in, assisted Mkhitaryan, and that killed the game. Once it was 2-0, Everton just stopped. They were so deflated.
Is Ronald Koeman's time at Everton under question? Because he spent, like Mourinho pointed out in his pre-match programme notes, that Everton has spent 140 million. Now, these were probably written a few weeks ago, so it's probably a bit out of date. They should be at least challenging for top four, and that was probably their hope at the end of the season.
Yeah.
But now, as you said, four defeats
in a row.
Not good performances in those defeats.
They've conceded about 12 goals, I think, in those 4 games.
Not a good return at all defensively, considering
13,
they put a lot of money into that defence. They put like 30 million for a goalkeeper, and they're promoting fullbacks. I know Seamus Coleman, when we spoke, is still out, so that's a big loss defensively. And not Gareth Bale, Leighton Baines is getting on. You can kind of tell that he can't get the ball, he can't get up and down that wing anymore. And there are teams that are overwhelming them on these wings. It's not the best return for it.
I think they play Bournemouth next week.
Bournemouth in desperate need of getting their first win.
It's at Everton as well, so like if they don't win that, I think he's going to be under a lot of pressure. Like,
they spent a lot of money.
Like, sure, they were in Europe at the weekend or during the week, and they lost 3-0 to Atalanta, and it's an Atalanta side that's lost
most of their best players.
All the best players are gone. Like, it's just
their first match in Europe in 30 years.
The team just lacks so much pace. Like, you wonder why they bought so many slow players. Like, why did they sign Gylfi Sigurdsson?
Well, he did cover more ground. He had the best stats for the amount of ground covered last season.
But what did he do for Everton yesterday?
Now, he kind of occupied that zone that Wayne Rooney was meant to occupy when he was signed.
It's bad when Wayne Rooney is kind of one of your better players.
Well, yeah, given the last few seasons, but like, it's still who's top scorer in the Premier League at the moment?
It's Aguero and Lukaku at 5.
Aguero and Lukaku have scored the most amount of goals since Wayne Rooney did in 2012 at the same period of time. So, he still was a good player. He's not that great now.
His legacy, just I think current Wayne Rooney.
Yeah, current Wayne Rooney, who has pleaded guilty to a drink driving offence.
Yeah,
has received 100 hours of community service. We don't know how that will affect his playing time. Whether that means he's going to miss training or he's going to miss matches as a result of these.
Yeah, and like if he's being their best performer, like what happens when he's out of the side?
Yeah.
If he is out of the side.
Well, some players could step up. Gylfi Sigurdsson could properly step up. Like, he is a good player. I know there's been a bit of doubts about him, that there was 2 opposing views of him at Spurs, that if he would still be at Spurs now if it wasn't the case that they needed to make weight for other signings. Yeah. And he would be part of that squad that's doing very well at Tottenham. Or he was just not good enough and he didn't actually do anything. He's kind of he's a very good player in a small pond, but put him in a big
which is exactly what we saw at Swansea.
Yeah, and at Iceland when he's playing international football as well. He performs excellently.
He was certainly worth £45 million to Swansea, but I don't see what his worth is to Everton at the moment.
Yeah, Swansea got a good deal out of that. Who, again, as we spoke, did perform at the weekend. They drew 0-0 with Tottenham, which is a performance. Tottenham, another week goes by without them getting victory.
Yeah, it was weird as well because it's in the league that they've never won there, obviously.
Yeah, but
it's 3 matches already, and like fair enough, the first one's against Chelsea, you lose that, but then the next 2, you like Burnley, who have abysmal away form.
Who could have won that match.
Who could have, yes. And Swansea, who
also could have won that match.
Yeah, who supposedly are going to go down, according to most people this season, or will at least be around there.
Yeah. And
they're not able to even just score. Like, sure, they hit the crossbar, but, like, that's not something you can hang your hat on.
Yeah. What was it? Every outfield player except for one, who is now escaping.
Davison Sanchez,
the centre-back, had a shot on goal against Swansea. And they didn't really come too close. I think Serge Aurier came closest, as you said, with a late shot that he tapped wide.
Kieran Trippier had a good chance, but that went wide as well.
And
there
the bar, obviously,
for
as
a
well.
Penalty that I don't.
Mike Dean show.
It felt like they were trying to kind of force a penalty as their way to solve the solution.
Yeah.
or long range shots.
It's funny because Paul Clement, who is the manager of Swansea, he previously worked with Carlo Ancelotti at Real Madrid and Bayern Munich, PSG and Chelsea. Yeah. So he has good pedigree in European football.
Yeah.
And that is something that's chasing Spurs around like mad, because when they go to the continent to play games, all these teams, these clever European teams, sit back off them. If you want to press us, we're just going to sit back and pass the ball over you or around you, and you can try and do this, and we're just going to force it out to you and put you under pressure and play counter-attack against your pressure.
Yeah.
Which seems to work great for all the European teams to play against them.
Yeah, and that's what Chelsea did against them as well.
Exactly, and that's what Swansea did with them as well. They seem to constantly focus on these wings and make them run back, so the press was kind of negated by these players stretching play.
Christian Eriksen has had a good start to the season, but it feels like Tottenham kind of rely on him to kind of unlock certain defences when they sit very deep. That or Harry Kane tries so many long shots at him.
Yeah, well, he did score a fluky goal last week against Everton, which was a cross-come shot that went in.
Yeah, that was a cross. I don't think he meant that.
Yeah, but that's what broke Everton's resolve. And if you think about it, if that didn't go in, maybe we'd be talking about maybe Spurs wouldn't have got that result last week.
No.
They seem to be very reliant on Harry Kane finding a way, or as you said, Christian Eriksen picking a pass. Away from that, everyone else is just running.
Yeah, what was Dele Alli had a great return last season, but what has he done so far this season? He's
got in trouble on international duty. Yeah. That's about all he's done.
It seems like he's very slow to start seasons, and this isn't the first time it's happened. It happened last season. It wasn't until about January that he really kicked into gear.
There's this one of two things. Is this other teams have figured out Spurs, as we spoke about Paul Clement and about Antonio Conte, playing a more reserved sit-back play against this high pressure? Or is it a case for Dele Alli and other Spurs players that Pochettino has them instructed to hold back? Because in previous seasons, well, they haven't started like a house on fire, but they've started better in this season.
Yeah.
And by the time they come to near the end of the season, they're burnt out. They collapse, they fall away, they finish second or they finish third in case of 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Is that an issue?
Yeah, it seems like they don't really hit their stride until Christmas comes around. And it's just, I think that's the issue. I don't know necessarily is it teams that figure them out.
So you think it's a case with maybe that they're trying to coordinate their fitness. They're trying to get them in the right frame of mind now. The fact that it's just hit such a pattern.
Last season they drew so many. I think they drew 4 matches in a row at some point last season.
Yes.
And that was still early. I think it was October, but it was still early enough in the season. Yeah. They're so slow to start the season, and that's ultimately kind of what cost them a proper go at the challenge last season.
It did last season because there wasn't a huge amount in it near the end.
No, it was about 7 points, I think, but they lost to West Ham.
And they lost to Chelsea as well, which was that's a 6-point turnaround. It's Spurs are a difficult kettle to boil.
Yeah.
If that's a term or phrase. I don't think it is.
No, I don't think it is. They're playing against West Ham next week, though, where they've lost
West
twice
Ham
in a row.
In dire straits. Somehow they still have a manager.
Yeah, or that manager, I suppose.
Savin Village is still at the club at the time of recording. That could all change. We don't know. There's Caribou Cup coming up this week.
Yeah, there's still another few days before that match.
Anything could happen in that case. But as you say, West Ham have a good record. And Spurs they throw form out the window.
Yeah,
with that match,
it is a derby.
Yeah, it's a local derby. They don't like each other. The fans of both sides. They kind of have a history.
Problems in recent years.
Yeah, and the way that things are going, maybe West Ham could bounce back and get something against it.
It's the kind of match that West Ham could just kind of win because Slaven Bilic has gotten kind of lucky. Last week while we were recording, Huddersfield were playing West Ham, and we were sitting here wondering, is
he'll be gone in the morning?
Yeah, is he going to be finished before we finish recording? But they found a way to just kind of win when he was under pressure, and I don't think it was necessarily because of him. I think it's just that West Ham team have enough quality in them.
Yeah, eventually if you put enough, hit the ball enough against the wall, you'll break it. That's what they did. They just kept shooting until eventually they scored.
Yeah, so it makes me wonder, they have these one-off performances in them that maybe that could, and the rivalry between them and Spurs could kind of lift them to actually taking something off Spurs, but I don't know.
It's a weird situation. There is a lot of strange things afoot at the moment in the Premier League. This weekend, as we said in our introduction, the Manchester teams performed. They won. They won well. Flattering results aside, they're top of the league. Both
they're still scoring goals.
They're scoring goals. Their goal difference.
If they're scoring that many goals and they're not playing well, how well will they do when they actually do play well?
Exactly. Meanwhile, the London clubs, that challenge for the league, or our so-called title challengers, Chelsea, Spurs and Arsenal, and the only other team up north who can realistically challenge for the title, Liverpool, all kind of just didn't
one
perform.
goal between them this weekend.
Like, that's bad.
Yeah.
And considering this is, like, how much did Chelsea spend on strikers this summer?
They spent about 58 million on Morata. They spent 30 million on Batshuayi last season.
Like, Arsenal have bought Lacazette for something similar to Morata.
Yeah.
They, Liverpool are missing Mane, but they still, like, they cannot beat these type of teams.
They can't be that bad without Mane.
But they fail to beat these teams constantly. They fail to put a performance in against the Burnleys, the Southamptons, the West Broms. They can't they break them down, they score, and then they're so frail at the back.
Yeah, and like they were 1-0 down when they did score. Like it was such a typical goal for Liverpool to concede. It was a long ball, second ball knocked down, and there was even a third ball knocked down by whoever, and it was a fine finish by the goal scorer. I can't remember his name.
So Chris Woods again?
No, I think he was the one that knocked it down.
Okay, I've completely his name is blanked in my head. But it was, I remember Sean Dyche spoke about it after the match, saying that they were targeting the young fullback who the triple barrel name, Trent Arnold-Alexander. That basically they would just fire balls at him. And see how he cope. And even though I don't think he comes across as that short, but they seem to be playing balls over him constantly. Yeah. And I don't get whether he's not used to jumping and challenging for the ball.
His positional awareness.
It mightn't be there just yet, but that's where all the joy was coming from. Klopp complained that they're playing long ball football, but Liverpool were like, their goal came from a very similar long ball over the top as well.
They played Joel Matip up front before. Like it's not like they're
not immune to long ball football.
And like it's such an odd complaint as well as like, how dare a side play a tactic that we are clearly unable to defend against.
Yeah, it's just sore. It's like sore loser, but that's it's distracting from the performance and it's relieving pressure off the team. That's Mourinho's an expert at it, Conte's an expert at it, and Klopp is an expert at it. That's why they've been successful in other clubs, and that's why they brought success to the clubs that they're at now. Speaking of success, Harry Redknapp, the great FA Cup winner of 2008.
2008, yeah.
2008, yes, with Portsmouth. He has been sacked after losing, six consecutive matches.
First time in his career he lost 6 games in a row, and they're probably his last 6 games.
Probably, isn't it? Like, there is a funny gif going around at the weekend of basically the Birmingham fullback had passed the ball out of play by Harry Redknapp. And gone, and the ball was hurled back and hit Redknapp in the face.
Oh, I did see this,
And it was just like he was going
he yelled at the guy in the
He was going to go
well.
fight them, A 68-year-old or however old he is, Harry Redknapp, going to take on people.
Still younger than Roy.
He is, but we won't speak of Roy Hodgson. He's ruined the football too much in recent years to speak of him. But Harry's gone. Birmingham lie adrift.
Yeah, ever since they sacked Gary Rowe.
Who, when they were doing fine in the
they were near the playoffs, if not in the playoffs.
Well, it was very early in the season because he was making overtures to other clubs. And now where are they? Like, he signed 14 players, including 8 on deadline day.
He played a right back at left back and had a left back on the bench. And
Colin Bramall was on the bench.
Having a left back.
Yeah. Who, I don't know if Colin Bramall, they have him from Arsenal.
Yeah.
He came from non-league. He was kind of one of those success stories. I've yet to see him play a senior game for anybody. So maybe he isn't that great, and that's why he's not a proper championship level player.
When you sign 14 players, I don't think you can really be complaining about any position.
But he was complaining about injuries. He was complaining about different things after the match, performances.
Classic Redknapp, really.
It wasn't his fault. That was the kind of basic element of it. He's gone now.
Clearly didn't agree.
Speaking of people who are gone, Ousmane Dembele.
He's out for 4 months, I think.
The Barcelona record signing, 147 million.
Yeah.
It'll run to before
he'll be out for January.
Most likely he'll be back for the second half of the Champions League.
Yeah.
But that's a big hit for Barcelona. Like, they do have a fairly good run of fixtures coming up. Again, they're not playing Real Madrid until December.
Yeah, but he still won't be back for that either.
No, he won't be. Well, they could rush him back for that maybe, but probably not worth their while.
No, especially if he gets injured again.
Exactly. But at the moment, it's the Messi show in Barcelona. He carried them again, and their famous, best signing of the summer, Paulinho, coming out clutch and bringing Barca from behind to win 2-1.
Yeah,
Getafe.
Yeah.
Not Colonel Getafe. Yeah. The Madrid club, the other Madrid club. Yeah. That's not one of the other two. Getafe. Yeah. They, Paulinho pulled that goal out. Messi was majestic again, really.
Yeah.
That's all said, really. And then, Real Madrid won as well, but
Gareth Bale scored. He ran about 35 kilometers an hour or something absurd like that.
He was clocked at that speed like a speeding gazelle. That was the headline in many Spanish newspapers this morning. It's so early in the season that the tables don't really matter. You look around Europe and you see the tables. You look at the moment in England, Manchester City are top in goal difference ahead of Man United.
Who do you think sits in fourth place?
Who is in fourth place?
Newcastle
United.
Newcastle United, 3 wins on the trot.
That's what Rafa brings, consistency. In France, Monaco are ahead and having the time, or PSG rather are ahead.
But Monaco are right behind as well.
Yeah, and there's teams up there. In Italy, there's 3 teams who had a 100% record.
Yeah.
In Germany, Borussia Dortmund are atop at the moment and chased by Bayern Munich. And in Spain, Barcelona are up there and Real Madrid are 4 points behind because they drew those 2 matches. Yeah. Do tables matter at this point of the season at all?
They don't
because
really.
They're so tight. Like we off air, we were discussing yesterday before Arsenal played Chelsea that if Arsenal won with a certain amount of goals, they would go third.
Yeah, and they're
after
their
horrific,
at the moment.
But after their horrific start, and they'd just be back in third.
Yeah,
technically challenged.
Yeah,
That's
I wouldn't say it really matters until maybe the international breaks are done
in November after the playoffs.
Like I'd say after that, then maybe there's.
You should start looking at the table. So about 14, 15 weeks in, maybe.
Yeah,
is that for? Yeah,
that'd be about that. Yeah,
like that's when it should matter.
That's when it kind of gets into shape.
But that's the Premier League. What about in Spain? Like, what if Barcelona hold a 4-point lead in November? Would you consider the league
until the two play each other, Madrid and Barcelona? That's the only time when it matters, I'd say. Because they don't drop points consistently enough for it to be like, oh, Real Madrid are in third, and
it's the end of the world if Real Madrid or Barcelona drop points.
Yeah,
as far as fans are concerned over there.
And like it's kind of the same in Italy when Juve drop points.
Yeah. It's a weird situation that everyone's having.
Yeah.
Like that they're all like certain teams are pulling ahead of everybody else already, and you're getting this dichotomy between there's 2 leagues in operation. In Germany certainly there's Bayern and whoever's going to challenge Bayern looks like Dortmund this year.
Yeah, it's probably going to be Dortmund.
Spain is obviously a 2-horse race. Maybe Atletico can challenge. They're not looking like it.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's
they've gone to a new stadium.
It seems like they're focusing on the Champions League.
They
want that horse
fair
off
enough.
their back.
Fair enough. They may as well go for it. If I could go for the Champions League as well, I probably would.
Yeah.
And then you look at Italy, and it's Juventus and whoever managed to keep up with them at the moment. It's
Napoli
and
Napoli. Yeah.
And in France, I think it's done already.
Yeah, PSG are just...
Even though Monaco are playing well, they did lose. What did they lose to?
They lost 4-0 to Nice
4-0 to Nice last week. And, even though they have Balotelli, they're not going to challenge for the league.
Although Nice did beat Monaco 4-0 last season, so...
Stranger things have happened, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's just the way these teams, they have a common trend among all these teams. And this is what I want to bring into, talk about more later on in the show.
Yeah.
That they seem to have a driving force within them.
Yeah,
that's different than
there's a focal point.
There's someone, a creative person or a finisher or someone that everyone rallies around that's a star player that everyone knows. That's Paulo Dybala, he plays for Juventus. Yeah. That's Neymar, he plays for PSG. That's Ronaldo. That's Messi.
That's Eden Hazard.
Eden Hazard at Chelsea, or Kevin De Bruyne at Man City, or Paul Pogba.
Yeah, who's not there
Manchester
at the moment.
United. He's not there at the moment, but that would be his position.
A
quarterback.
Essentially, yeah.
Someone who gets all the attention, while these second level teams don't seem to have them.
No,
and they focus on other.
Like
things.
you would have thought Sigurdsson would be that for Swansea, but now he's gone, and now you don't look at. There is no superstar on that team. You could say obviously Ronaldo Sanchez, but I wouldn't necessarily say that he's anywhere near that even Sigurdsson level.
No, he's just a kid, and he's not really fulfilling his potential at the moment. But that's an interesting thing, and I think we're going to discuss more of it in part 2 after this. Hello and welcome back. We're about to enter into our topic of the show, but I want to say if you have any ideas of anything you want us to talk about, and please feel free to be part of the show and email us at thetfpod@gmail.com or tweet us at thetfpod. We want to talk about the battle of systems in modern football versus the loss of individuality in play. We just spoke about there that the focal points of teams that are the top of the top, the cream of the crop. We have the Ronaldos, the Messis, the Eden Hazards, the Neymars, all at these super clubs that kind of differentiate them from everybody else.
Yeah.
Everyone else, at this point in time, systems seem to be what rules the roost in recent years. The system manager, a manager who manages by, I'm putting a system in place and my players are going to play to this, have been what's been in vogue for the last 15 to 20 years. Jose Mourinho, Pep Guardiola, who's the ultimate system manager in my opinion. Most of the Italian managers have always been like this.
Yeah.
So Allegri at Juventus and the Napoli manager, whose name escapes me. Sacchi. Well, Arrigo Sacchi was... It's the new manager.
It's Sarri.
Sorry.
Arrigo
Sacchi is the famous Milan manager who also, pioneered a similar style of football to what Pep Guardiola plays at the moment, high pressing and attacking. All of these managers have taken hold of the world game. There's no more Harry Redknapp, as we just spoke about in the last part of the show, has been sacked. He's gone. He's one of the last bastions of that. Up and at them. Come on, lads. Yeah. I'll talk you into playing and winning this other team. Go out there and have fun. Yeah. Now it's everyone play the system, play the game. But at the same time, we seem to have hit a time of stalemate.
Yeah, there's a lot less flexibility in how a team plays against, how one system goes up against another. It's generally like this was something Big Sam used to always say about Brendan Rodgers. If he felt that his system never changed, so it was a very easy way to set up a team to play against them specifically.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Mourinho he showed it last season as well, but he's very good at one-off systems that he can employ against a team that always plays a certain way. Yeah. Like we saw him do it against Conte last season.
And it worked.
Yeah.
But to do that, you need a flexibility of player, which a lot of teams don't have. Yeah. So it doesn't afford... not every team has Paul Pogba, not every team has Zlatan Ibrahimovic, not every team has Marcus Rashford to call upon. Mourinho does.
Yeah.
So it's a bit different for him than other teams. But Mourinho has made his career, he did it at Porto by just, I'm going to build a system that's going to avoid losing.
Yeah.
And that's how he made his livelihood and became one of the most, highly sought after manager. And he won 2 Champions Leagues like that. Nobody liked the football he played.
No, but that's not what matters to him in the end.
It isn't, and it's not matters to the clubs that won Champions Leagues. It doesn't matter to Porto.
I'm sure Inter Milan are very happy with their Champions League.
They are, and their treble they won that season. Everyone's happy with that. And Pep Guardiola, in a lot of ways, is very similar to Jose Mourinho. Plays a system. Now, his system is a lot different from Mourinho. Have to have the ball.
It's a bit more aesthetically pleasing.
Can only have the ball for a few seconds. Pass it. We must maintain control.
And if they do lose the ball, they have to get it back within 6 seconds.
Or otherwise they assume a defensive shape.
Yeah.
This is defensive posture. Passing, he spoke about this after the match, and this is what brought it into my head. After the match of the weekend, he spoke about his players you can only pass the ball 5 to 6 metres. That's here to across the room. It's no distance at all.
Yeah.
It's a small distance, only 5 to 6 metre passes. You're not allowed long raking passes. You're not allowed to take risks, basically.
Yeah.
As a result of that, space becomes a hugely sought after commodity. If you're only allowed past 5 or 6 metres, the defenders know that you're only allowed past 5 or 6 metres. A good manager who will be doing their own system will review videos,
Yeah, that's something that Mourinho will be very interested to know.
Yeah. Well, they do something similar to Manchester United, except it's the opposite. They avoid risk by bypassing the area where you can pass.
And they love a good cross to the ball.
Exactly. But that's Pep's system as he plays 5 or 6 metres, everyone moving around. It requires a huge amount of fitness, a huge amount of skill, a huge amount of poise. And it also requires luck because you need the opposition team to make a mistake. If they know that that's going to happen, they're going to set up in a way where they're going to avoid giving up as much space as possible. Like we've seen teams like Watford try to do it the weekend. Everton did it successfully.
Yeah.
If you remember earlier in the season, and it's the same system they employed against the other big sides that did not work for them.
No.
They sat back as deep as they could, right in there on top of their goalkeeper, on top of Jordan Pickford.
Yeah.
He passed it out to them, and there was enough high pressure up the top of the field for City to win the ball back quickly. Now they tried to do the same thing against Chelsea, almost exactly the same thing, but Stamford Bridge is a much smaller pitch. And the Chelsea players were just that much closer that it made that little bit of difference. Leighton Baines couldn't get the ball out. The keeper had to play it long. There was no one in midfield. And then Chelsea just kept coming and coming and coming. That little extra space at the Etihad, or was it at the Etihad, that match?
Stamford Bridge.
No, the Man City-Everton match.
Yeah, that was that at the Etihad.
That little extra space at the Etihad allowed Everton to actually break free, which, they haven't been able to do since. And Mourinho, bar that freak goal that happened, they probably would have been a bit more successful at it against Man United at the weekend. So that's something that has to be taken account. But in all of this, these big teams still win, and I think they win for one simple reason. And that's because they have one player generally, a designated player, if you will, a quarterback, a designated hitter in baseball, that just brings something special to the game.
Yeah. And I feel like Eden Hazard is the epitome of that in the Premier League. I feel like he is the one that is
There's
most...
few in the Premier League.
There are a number of them in the Premier League and across Europe, but I think
But
Eden Hazard...
what I mean is there's not many in the Premier League compared to other leagues.
Yeah, I think
Which
so.
is why we're looking at draws.
I wouldn't really say like Mane... To an
they're
extent,
match winners, but they're not.
I wouldn't say Mane is
class.
exactly. He's not at Hazard's level. I think Hazard's the best at it in maybe even Europe when you consider like
his effect on one team.
Yeah, and you consider the rest of the players in that team.
Yes.
Like if you take Ronaldo out of Madrid, they're not as good, but they're still a very good team.
They still have Gareth Bale, they still have Asensio, they still have Esco.
Whereas like we've seen Hazard out of this Chelsea team the last few days or
for the last few months.
Yeah. And you just wonder where the creation is going to come, where individual brilliance is going to come from. And as soon as he came on yesterday in the 70-odd minute, there was a complete change. Like Conte did change the system slightly, so that they'd have Fabregas drop deeper. And
so Hazard could be
behind,
released.
Yeah, so Hazard sat behind Morata, but he could roam.
Yeah,
and you could see like that is a change of system, but it was a change of system because Hazard. Like that just suited Hazard so that he could come out even more and he could have more of a chance to kind of just change the game.
He was a wild card basically.
Yeah.
He was the Harry Redknapp go out and have fun type of player.
Yeah.
Do what you do best. Play football, try and score a goal, try and win it, go and do that. And that was his remit. Like you could see there is discipline in Hazard's play, which is obvious. He does track a bit and he does do things like this where he's rolling back with the rest of the play. He's not being caught offside, for instance, the way someone like Mesut Ozil would be.
Yeah.
But he can do what he wants. And because of that, Arsenal don't know what to do. They're playing a system, a very rigid system.
Yeah.
And they're suddenly seeing this player who's not abiding by what they're used to. He's not being Willian. He's not shuttling up and down the right-hand side.
Yeah.
He's doing what he wants.
Because yesterday was very much a man-marking system by Arsenal. They matched the 3-4-3 and they stuck with every player. And once, obviously, the change of system came and Hazard was roaming, you could see Xhaka was dragged along the pitch. He didn't quite know where to go. And that definitely opened up space for Hazard to kind of create more chances.
And that's 20 minutes and he already had that effect. Like we talk about Paul Pogba maybe at Manchester United being that player. He hasn't yet showed that level of consistency or brilliance that Eden Hazard has, but that's why he was signed.
And they are kind of different players with the same impact.
Yeah, but they've been signed to be. He's been the Hollywood player, the player that's going to take all the focus. Like I think they're much more common in the European game. I think that's the difference between England at the moment and Europe, in that England have dropped back. Like neither of us believe really, bar someone getting a very good draw in the knockout side of the Champions League, that English clubs can't even get to the semi-finals this competition.
No, I think they could get to a quarter-final just because they'll probably get top of the group and there will be teams there that they can. But there is 5 of them, so
but neither of us think that they could actually progress further and beat these top teams that we spoke. I don't think any team in England at the moment could beat a Barcelona, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, Juventus, Bayern Munich.
Well, I think of those, Juventus is probably the most. Juventus and Bayern Munich, I think I did actually predict Bayern to win the Champions League, but based on what I've seen so far, they've actually regressed in the last 4 months.
But they still have those star players like at Bayern have a multitude of them that they employ in different ways.
The problem, though, with Bayern Munich is the key players they rely on are Arjen Robben and Frank Ribéry. And, like, how many injuries they had over the years, and they're 33 and they're 34.
They're getting on.
Yeah. Like
and Lewandowski's, he can only... very similar player to, say, Harry Kane or Karim Benzema. He's designed to win the ball, or win the games by scoring goals. He's not designed to actually create the openings to score goals. You can shut those players down.
Yeah, you can just mark them out of the match.
Exactly. Harry Kane, it's happened to. Benzema, it's happened to. Lewandowski, it's happened to.
Yeah.
But you can't take Robin out of the match. You can always do something special. Yeah. You can't take, in similar ways, PSG have made huge money to try and sign one of these players. They've been trying to for the last few years, and they finally managed to do it this year. Everyone thought it might be Ronaldo for the last couple of years, but they got Neymar. And we could speak about Neymar and the way he plays and, how he creates divisions and teams and stuff like that in his own team. But you cannot deny he has great skill.
Yeah.
And he brings something
extra
player. To it. And similar, a wild card. You give the ball to Neymar out the left-hand side and he can do whatever the hell he wants with it.
Yeah.
No one has to, no one knows, okay, if you give the ball to pick a player there like you want. You give the ball to Nathan Redmond
At Southampton.
Is he at Southampton?
Yeah, he's at Southampton.
You give the ball to him, he's going to do one thing and try and get the ball into the box.
Yeah.
Or have a shot. There is two things. Neymar, like watching him last night, a couple of times he tried to do step overs and drag it in and try and win a penalty.
Yeah,
Another time he passed inside and played 1-2s. He crossed the ball another time, or he'll have a shot. He'll try to, do different things. You don't know. The defenders are caught off their back heels every time.
Yeah, and the thing as well, we spoke about this recently, and not to go back to Eden Hazard again, because the same is very clear with Neymar, is dribbling has become a completely lost art in football.
Very few players can even do it anymore.
Yeah, and we were talking about, I think it was after United beat Swansea 4-0, you were mentioning how they just ran through the middle.
Yeah, defenders don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Like, was Marcus Rashford that day, I believe.
Him and Mkhitaryan.
And Mkhitaryan just running. Hesse at Stoke against Arsenal, all he did was
just ran through the middle.
And they just did not know how to cope with it.
Yeah, backed off from him and gave him the space to take a shot.
That dribbling ability with actual class, the way that Hazard has it, the way that Neymar has it, the way Messi has it, the way Robin has it. Like, people make fun of Robin that he scores the same goal over and over again.
Yeah, but he's scoring it.
It is, yeah. He just runs and then he cuts in or cuts out on his left foot from the right hand side and scores. And it's like, people are shocked. How is this? Why doesn't the system adapt to it? People are angry at the system, not at the fact that they can't actually come up with a style of football to cope with this.
Yeah,
it's just a bit like, you don't want to use the word genius, but it's just that bit of inspiration, that spark of something, and that is football. That is soccer. That is what they want.
The just moment of pure magic from a player.
Paulo Dybala scored a hat-trick at the weekend again.
Yeah,
for Juventus.
He's got 9 goals already this season.
Crazy. Like, he's already. There's 2 players with 9 goals, I think, in Italy at the moment.
Yeah.
It's just mad. He scored another hat-trick at the weekend. Saved Juventus again.
Yeah.
It's funny when a player saves a big club like Juventus
with
a
hat
hat-trick.
Be without him this
There would be nowhere at the moment, I don't think. But they all came individual. They're all individual goals.
Yeah.
One of the goals was a free kick.
Was one of them a penalty?
I don't know. I don't think it was. But one of them was a free kick, and that was just a moment of inspiration. Put it over the wall.
It was a great free kick.
But I want to talk about, I think it was his third goal. Correct me if I'm wrong. But he basically, Juventus were working the ball down the right hand side, and Dybala looks like he's playing badly.
Yeah.
He's not doing the traditional thing of running into the box, being there for if a cross comes in. He just kind of loiters at the edge of the box.
Yeah.
Almost as if he knows the ball is going to break, be half cleared, and just fall to him to this dispatch with a wonderful shot.
Yeah.
Like only a player of that magnitude could do, into the back of the net. But he knew that. He knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, being able to read the play is kind of becoming
intelligence and luck. And just that spark of inspiration.
As opposed to everyone being told how to play.
Exactly. And that's come back to England and the Premier League. Pep Guardiola said everyone's allowed past only allowed past the ball 5 or 6 metres, except for one player in the squad. And who's that player?
Kevin De
Bruyne. Who is, and you saw it during the match, he just raked long balls, switched the play.
Yeah.
He could do what he wanted. He was allowed to run through it. And that's why I believe also that David Silva's days are numbered at that club.
Yeah, he is the natural successor, and you look at Bernardo Silva as well as in the team.
Exactly, but I think those players are going to be a lot more withdrawn and to actually have a more functional role in the side, and Kevin De Bruyne is going to be the player that's allowed to express himself.
Yeah, and he's probably the best player in the league at the moment.
He probably is, even though he's not getting the headlines that Aguero's getting or other players like Lukaku is getting. He's by far, he's just changing.
Like, to go back to the match against Liverpool last week, the ball for the first match is still 11v11 at this point.
Yes.
Like, the ball is split open. Like, sure, Liverpool don't have the best defence in the league, but it's still an absolutely genius pass to split open
it's like
the two defenders.
A thing that great players do that isn't is often overlooked. Messi does it constantly, and De Bruyne did it last week, is play the ball, the obvious ball.
Yeah.
Why would he? People don't give it credit because it's like, oh, that's so obvious. He just passed the ball through.
Yeah.
But a great song isn't obvious until it's written. Oh, that's just an easy song, but it's a catchy tune. And what he did was the personification of a catchy tune in football.
Yeah.
He just played a nice little simple ball. It didn't require world-class skill. It didn't require a big outside of the foot, curved, bended around a wall type of pass.
Yeah.
Simple square ball.
Yeah, no one ever seems to, when they're in the middle, no one wants to kind of receive the ball in the middle. Everyone wants to receive it from out wide when they're in the attacking third. it always has to come from out wide, or the player has to come in, take a shot, and it get blocked, and the ball lands. Like no one just
it's rehearsed.
Yeah,
it's rehearsed. Dennis Bergkamp spoke about this. There was a book written about Dennis Bergkamp a couple of years ago by, I've forgotten the name of the author. He wrote the Orange book, the Magnificent Orange book.
Yeah.
It'll come back to me in a while. But he interviewed Dennis Bergkamp extensively for this book. And one of the things Dennis Bergkamp is doing at Ajax, and an Ajax youth team that's coming through and is already, half their players are across Europe at the moment. Bergkamp runs the youth setup, basically. He runs the young players at Ajax. He's in charge of that.
Yeah.
And his job, Ajax is one of the most famed footballing schools in the world.
Yeah.
Has been for decades. And he got in there and he was appalled by what he saw. He believed the players are being overcoached. They're being told, you have to stand there, you have to stand there. You can't go elsewhere. You have to stay there. You have to receive the ball in a certain way. You have to off the ball in a certain way. You have to take a shot. You have to take a certain amount of shots before you can do something else. And this kind of football just appalled him. He didn't like it. He thought that's why Ajax were falling behind at the time. This is about 10 years ago now. And they'd lost another great generation of players, the Wesley Sneijers, the Zlatans, the Rafael van der Vaarts of the world. And he wanted to bring in the way he learned to play football. He learned to play football by having a football against the wall in Amsterdam and hitting different cobbles to practice technique, to hit things. And the ball would come back off the cobbles a different way every time.
Yeah.
And he'd have to learn how to do it in a different way. And it required him to create intelligence within himself to learn how to deal with the unexpected, to do something different every time so he could do what he wanted. And that's what he's tried to instill in Ajax since, and it's bared some fruit.
They've had some good players come through now.
They've had some good players come through, but it's still early days in a revolution like that. And that's something that I believe there is a common thread between, like, Cristiano Ronaldo is an example of what would happen if you worked very hard for your whole life.
Yeah.
But he grew up in a place where there is not a high standard of football at all.
No.
That there's no coaching. He grew up on an island, Madeira, isn't it? That's where Ronaldo's from.
Yeah, I think so.
Grew up on an island on his own where he would just play football on his own. He was in his own head. He would do it all himself.
Yeah.
And he was a teenager before he left the place to join Sporting Lisbon. And he had to come up with that himself. Messi's a similar way. He grew up on playing little football in Argentina, playing age groups way above his own age, bigger players. He had to figure out how to survive, basically. These players would just crush him physically. Yeah. So he had to be clever and he had to be smart. And all of these different players all have a similar story behind them. It doesn't mean that you have to be from poverty to be good at football. You have to have hard experiences to learn how to be better. But it's certainly different from just being coached for 15 years before you actually get into a first team and actually have to, okay, what I'm going to do is run up and down very fast, work on my fitness and not worry about football at all.
Yeah, just learn how to maybe cross a ball.
Yeah, just do a very functional, Theo Walcott-esque football. Yeah. That is a fantastic athlete, can run very fast, can do the basics of football, can pass the ball, can shoot the ball very well, but doesn't have any spark.
No, you never rely on him to change a match.
You can't, and that's why these players are such a high commodity. Like, you couldn't buy Kevin De Bruyne this year. Man City weren't going to sell him. No. You couldn't buy Eden Hazard this year, even though I'm sure he was wanted. But he was wanted. Like, that's why it's so amazing that Neymar was sold, because he's one of these few. There's only a few of these players left in the world.
And that's kind of the Spanish law kind of coming there to maybe hurt Barcelona.
Yeah.
Because it was a release clause in the end.
Yeah, he probably wouldn't have left.
There's no way Kevin De Bruyne or Eden Hazard have a release clause in their contract. There's no way they do that. That's suicide nearly.
Well, for the club, that is, not for the...
Oh, yeah, no.
Whatever the player wants to do best for their career. But for the, you're right. For the club, it would just destroy them. Man City, even though Man City spent however many hundreds of millions this summer, they would still be nothing, I don't think. Well, they would be obviously be.
Yeah, they'd still have someone like David Silva in the team.
Would, but they wouldn't have that extra oomph that probably could power them to the league title this year. And similar, if Eden Hazard wasn't on top form, you saw what happened when he wasn't on top form the last season, Mourinho's tenure.
Yeah,
he just the whole club just fell apart.
Ceased to exist, really.
Chelsea have been very competent since their opening day against Burnley this season.
And that's just because Conte is such an organised coach. Like, he knows how to set the team up to not lose, basically.
But true, but they're not anywhere near league-winning form. Yeah. Like, they don't look like the champions. When I heard Pep Guardiola speaking about, we have to play the champions, we'll see what our team will be like against the champions. I was like, They're playing Chelsea.
Yeah,
I forgot Chelsea are the league champions. They don't have that grandeur, even of like Leicester City. Maybe it was just a bit of extra special oomph to them.
Yeah.
But like even like we're going back a few years.
Even in that team though, Mahrez was the game changer there. Like,
Exactly.
Mahrez had that spark to him. I don't know what's happened since or why he wasn't like that before. But in that one season, he just, in a match, could in an instant just change the complexion of the game.
Remember that time he dribbled through the Man City side and scored that goal to make it 3-0?
Yeah, it was 3-0, I think, at the time.
Yeah, just to the right of Joe Hart. It just
Yeah.
happens like that. It was the beginning of the end for Joe Hart, really.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a weird thing. The upswing of managerial talent across Europe has really cultivated this management of players, and it's brought a lot of teams on, but it's also caused a detriment to the general quality of football. Yeah. I don't know if that's going to improve in years to come.
No, I don't know. It's
like you say, this could be the end of it. There's no players coming through, blah, blah, blah. But then Paulo Dybala comes through. Neymar came through a few years ago.
There's always like once in a generational talent, and maybe it's more like 5 in a generation. But you can't always rely on that, and sometimes they slip through the cracks, or they don't maybe get that move to that certain club. You always wonder what if. It relies on academies. Really, like I don't know how much focus is being put on academies. Like you look at Eden Hazard, he came from France. You look at Paulo Dybala, he's come from one of the lower league teams in Italy. I can't remember which. It's only Messi of these players that has actually come from that club's academy.
Yeah,
and like where have the academy stars come from in these big teams over the last 10 years?
They always come from almost feeder clubs, and then they get blooded, and then they eventually come through, and then a few players maybe join a big side early on, the way you look at Lukaku joining Chelsea and then just being spat out, going on loan, and then it taking years to go back to the level of club that he started at. And Asensio, similar. A lot of players leave Real Madrid early and they come back again.
Asensio didn't come from the academy either. Like he was
he was signed. $4 million. That's the thing. It's like it's a weird. I don't think there's a solution for it.
Yeah.
To fix it, maybe Dennis Bergkamp's system can be proven that stop overcoaching players, make them actually be intelligent.
It'd be interesting to see if that's maybe copied by teams in the coming years.
It could be from players from teams that might have better resources than Ajax that can employ it at a much wider scale. If Chelsea or some team with a huge academy were to employ it, you might see some benefits going down the line. But it's unsure of what's going to happen in the future. But we thought it'd be an interesting topic to discuss with you, and let us know what you think about that. Do you think management has crippled creativity and ingenuity in football, or do you think this is just where we are at the moment?
Yeah,
the quality of team play is just at such a level that individuals cannot shine anymore, and we're becoming something akin to almost a basketball level where everyone plays a very strict position. Sometimes there's great players that excel, but everyone basically does the same things. Is it like that, or is it something else? Let us know. Get in touch with us if you can at the thetfpod@gmail.com or on Twitter or on any social media that you were on. With that, I think we're going to bring this episode of the show to a close. I want to thank you for listening, and please do get in touch at the email at thetfpod@gmail.com or at social media at the tfpod. You can follow us individually. I'm Combon27 and Declan is
at Cheesy Hairpun.
Remember to subscribe, rate, and review on whatever platform you listen on. It really does help us if you do that, and it can help get more people involved with it.
Yeah.
And that just leaves me to say thank you, Declan.
No, thank you.
And until next week, farewell.